Halloween this morning, as is Eric Mangini, our guest, although it's a little more of a smirk. Good morning. Welcome to First Things First. So alongside the aforementioned Eric Mangini, you got Nick and Kevin. We got so much to talk about today. We'll get to Andy Reid in a second. But first, is Cam a lock to start week one for the New England Patriots? Why is DeAndre Hopkins taking jabs at the Texans, albeit a creative jab? And is it title or bust for Joel Embiid this season? Those stories and more. But back to our top story this morning, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs' dreams of a dynasty. The $500 million man met with reporters over Zoom yesterday to talk about, among other things, his shiny new contract. So right after signing it, Mahomes puts out a hype video, which ends in fairly simple terms: we're chasing a dynasty. So here's Mahomes now on the one specific dynasty he wants to emulate. Take a listen.
I think watching The Last Dance and watching Michael and all the stuff that he did and that he's done and all the success he has, it's just affirmation. It's something that I've always believed in, those things about the legacy, about going out there and being the best player and having the best teammates around me. And it's not about one person, it's about the team. And I think that's the biggest thing. And I think you see that with our whole entire team. As you see, we have a lot of these guys coming back that want to be a part of this. They want to be a part of this culture. They want to be a part of trying to build a dynasty, because those things aren't easy to do. And we understand that. So it's going to take a lot of hard work and a lot of dedication. I feel like we have that with the guys we have in this locker room.
So, Nick, let me start with you. Mahomes is on a path to be great. Nobody's going to deny that. But which career path do you think is more likely for Patrick Mahomes? Tom Brady's 6 rings or Aaron Rodgers' 1 ring?
Oh, that's a great question. And I think the smart money, obviously, would be somewhere in the middle. I think Patrick's going to end up with a nice round 4 Super Bowl championships. But if you're telling me it's going to be one of the 2 doors, door number 1 is that he matches Brady's 6, or door number 2 is that he never wins another Super Bowl, the obvious and I think only plausible choice is door number 1. It would be an all-time sports upset if Patrick Mahomes never wins another Super Bowl. Everything is set up as perfectly as it can be for this Chiefs team and for Patrick to be the face of the next dynasty in the NFL. They are young, they are talented, they have an excellent front office, they have a Hall of Fame coach, they have a division that does not have a single other established team or established quarterback, and we just saw them win a championship under the most adverse possible circumstances. Patrick Mahomes got carted off the field with a dislocated kneecap in week 6, pardon me. They were down 24 points in their first playoff game. They were down double digits in all of their playoff games. It was a year where 6 teams won a dozen or more games, and yet they still won the championship. So I understand the hesitation on saying anyone is ever going to match Brady's 6, but if you're asking me, Coach, what's more likely, he never wins again, or he has a run like Brady as a player that is more physically talented than Brady? The answer is obviously that he has a run like Brady, Coach.
Yeah, it's going to be hard for anybody to match 6 Super Bowls, but I have to say I've been really impressed with Patrick Mahomes and the decisions that he's made recently, and even the way that he talks and the perspective that he has. It says a lot about him when he's in the position that he's in to take the contract that he took. And as much as we're talking about it being a $500 million contract, that's not the reality in the short term. It's $21 million a year over the first 3 years. That's the average. Only $63 million is guaranteed. He's the 13th highest paid player on the team this year. But that being said, that allows the Chiefs to continue to maintain players, good players that they have, and the potential to do things in terms of bringing other players in. He had them over a barrel, and he didn't use all his leverage to force them into a situation that would make it harder to compete year in and year out. And that perspective for a young guy is really unique, and I have a ton of respect for the decision he made.
So, Coach, I have a question for you. When Patrick Mahomes is talking about Michael Jordan and the importance of building a dynasty, and Nick, I have something for you a little bit later. That dynasty was Phil and Scotty and Michael, and later, Steve Kerr and John Paxson kind of switched out. The Patriots dynasty is like Brady and Belichick, and you see the stats, like they all turn over. There's just a tremendous amount of turnover. So how do the Chiefs, or how important it is to have continuity within that Chiefs? Like we were talking about yesterday, like this is a message to the guys in the locker room that Patrick Mahomes wants a dynasty. I'm like, yeah, and guys in other locker rooms and guys in college, because most of those Chiefs won't be around if this dynasty, it really gets off the ground.
Yeah, well, the one thing I'll say, though, Kevin, is with the New England dynasty, the importance that Tom played, not just in ability, but his willingness to be coach, his willingness to be unselfish, his willingness to do things that are different than other quarterbacks in his position did, that allowed flexibility to adjust year in and year out and be competitive year in year out. And that's what I like the most about what I'm seeing from Patrick Mahomes and the contract that he did sign.
Hey, Coach, let me just ask you a quick question. We've had you on the show now for, the last couple of years. And since Patrick Mahomes started picking up speed, you've kept saying all along, I want to see more, I want to see more, prove it to me, prove it to me. Even after he won the Super Bowl, there was a little level. Before we talk long-term contracts and Hall of Fame and all of it, I want to see more. Do you feel like even in this short period of time, you've seen enough that he is on now for sure this trajectory?
Well, no, not at all. And as much as Nick wants to celebrate the Super Bowls that they're going to win, it is really hard. The greatest thing that they did, and the greatest thing that he did, was negotiate a contract that gives the team a chance to compete year in and year out. And I know we talk about the $500 million number, but that's not what he signed. Yeah, it is, but it's artificial. It's down the line. But in the short term, he gives them the chance to actually to maintain talent, to get talent. And he's also sending a very clear message that he's willing to sacrifice in order for the greater good. And that's as powerful a message as you can have in a locker room. And it's like when we talk about Tom versus Cam, and I know we'll get into that later, when your best player is a selfless guy and everybody looks at him and says, okay, he's willing to do that, it's so much easier to get the locker room around him to do the same thing. That is a huge step for the Chiefs.
Listen, the team obviously loves him. The players, obviously the organization. And Coach's point about the flexibility this leaves the team is a great one. If you got to look at this contract in almost three different buckets, in that over the next 3 years, his cap hit will never hit $30 million. Over the following 4 years, it stays around $40 million. And then over the years 8 through 12 is when it's around $50 million. And that's so far down the road, we don't know what the cap will be, and we don't know what different changes the team would make. To Wild's point about the Patriots just being Brady and Belichick, over the totality of the run, that's correct. But they won their Super Bowls in 2 short windows. They won 3 in the first 4 in the very beginning. Then they won 3 out of 5 at the end. And in that first 4-year run, when they won those 3 Super Bowls, there was a core of guys who were there. There was was Bruschi and Vrabel and Ted Johnson and mostly defensive guys. And then on the back end with those other 3 Super Bowls, Brady, Edelman, Gronk are there for all of it. So it's incumbent on the Chiefs, obviously, right now, with Mahomes, Kelsey, Hill, and the head coach Andy Reid, to rack up another one or another 2 as quickly as possible. And, Kevin, the reason I'm so bullish on it is, look at I mentioned there's no one established in the division, but look at the AFC. Here's the full list of AFC quarterbacks who've won a Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes and Ben Roethlisberger. That's it. Full list of AFC quarterbacks who've been to a Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes, Ben Roethlisberger, and Cam Newton. That's it.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah. In the young guys in the AFC wilds, his biggest rival, Lamar, has never beaten him. His next biggest rival, Deshaun, just lost a 24-point lead to him. So I do feel like the moment is available to them right now to win a couple more in the next 2-3 years, Wildes.
Yeah, but
all right. I'm gonna
look,
Nick, I'm gonna throw it back to you.
I don't even mean to interrupt you, but there's other things that go into play. Yeah, they signed him to a contract. He hasn't gotten any better because he's making more money. Okay, that all they've done is sign him to a contract extension. That's good news, but there's a ton of lessons that have to be learned going into this next season. You need to learn how to deal with success. And there's going to be a bunch of players in that locker room that says, okay, Patrick got paid. I was responsible for this Super Bowl win too. I need to get paid. And that unselfish attitude, it doesn't translate to every single person. Then there's this understanding that you are now the hunted, and every single game people are giving you their best shot. So you better develop, you better get better, you better make strides. You don't get to start where you left off. Yeah, they signed a contract. That's great. It doesn't change anything. They didn't add a player. They just paid a player more money.
Right, which is why it's fortunate they don't need to get better because they just won the title. And the guy, Kelsey's under contract. Hill just got his contract. Honey Badger just got his contract. Frank Clark just got his contract. Chris Jones is the one guy, Wildes, that is, awaiting a new deal, and we'll see what they do with him. But I know you wanted to get in, Wildes. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to blow up the segment because every time we talk about the last dance and Patrick Mahomes, I know it puts you in a bind because you got Jordan and Mahomes here. So the question to you is this, Nick. We've heard you say a lot. You got like Patrick Mahomes has to win 3 Super Bowls, has to win 4 Super Bowls, but your buddy LeBron gets to the finals and loses. You said it's not a big deal. We shouldn't be ring counting. That's not what it's about. So if Patrick Mahomes had a Jim Kelly-esque run here, would you be satisfied with that?
No. And again, maybe I'm wrong, Wildes. I apologize. I do think LeBron's got 3 titles. About to have a 4th. I think that's correct. I'm not the expert on this.
Yeah, that's true.
But so I don't think Patrick Mahomes, just like LeBron, doesn't need 6 rings to be better than Jordan. He's already better than Jordan. Mahomes won't, at the end of his career, have to get to 6 rings to be considered the greatest quarterback ever. Now, I won't call him the greatest quarterback ever right now. That would be a bridge too far. I think he's the most talented quarterback we've ever seen. But if Mahomes has Peyton Manning's regular season resume of a fistful of MVPs to go along with 3 or 4 rings, and then I think it will be a real conversation whether he gets to 6 rings or not. And so LeBron wouldn't be in the discussion if in those 9 finals appearances he had only won 1 of them. But he's won 3 of them. And so it's a little apples and oranges. I see Coach shaking his head on the ring chasing part, or the count the rings part of it. You don't. Hold on. Go ahead.
Your kiss of death. What you just said is the perfect example of kiss of death. You said they don't need to add any more talent. They just won the Super Bowl. That is the absolute wrong attitude. And I don't know why we're comparing him to basketball. Compare him to the Patriots. Forget about the basketball comparison. Let's talk about Pats.
Well, is he already a Hall of Famer? We're going to drive Coach a little crazier a little later. Let's talk some hoops. Who's going to be the bigger star in the NBA bubble, Tatum or Embiid? Antoine Walker joins us next to discuss First Things First. On Sunday, NASCAR Cup Series action takes off from Kentucky Speedway at 2:30 Eastern on FS1. Then for the first time ever, on July 15th, the NASCAR All-Star Race takes on the short track Bristol Motor Speedway. See all your favorite drivers in action beginning at 8:30 Eastern on FS1 and the Fox Sports app. And we welcome in Antoine Walker. All right, we're going to draw a blank NBA style. Let's start with your former team, Twan, the Celtics. Jason Tatum recently said this about the NBA restart in Orlando. Said, if we're going down there, we may as well try to win a championship. You think, Jason? Nick, start with you. The chances the Celtics win the NBA title are blank.
Well, I spent a lot of time on this, Antoine, because I wanted to be very precise, because I know this is obviously the team you started your career with, made some all-star teams with, Wilds, this is the team you root for. Jenna, this is the team you root for. So I want to be clear. Chances Celtics win a title are, by my calculations, 0%. Here's why. The Lakers are at 62%. The Bucks are at 28%. So now we have 10% left. The Rockets are at 5%. The Clippers are at 4%. And the team we're about to talk about, Philly, eats up the remaining 1%. So I apologize if there was 102% available, the Celtics would be in there. But with just 100% available, the Celtics are at 0%, Antoine. I'm sorry to say.
This is a tough one for me, Nick. 0%, I can never give them 0%, but I got them at 20%. I think if they have the ability to score the basketball, yeah, they got the ability to score the basketball at a high level with those four guys. So they got a legitimate chance. They could take Milwaukee deep into the finals with a chance to beat them, and then obviously we get to the Lakers, and we'll deal with that when we get there. But it's 20%. It's better than 0. They got a legitimate chance. They got 4 big-time scorers, guys that can put in the basket. That becomes very difficult in the playoffs. You don't have to rely on one person. You get multiple guys that can have big nights. Jason Tatum seems like he's going to be a guy that can get you 30 at any moment. So I like them. Kemba Walker talked about being healthy right now. So I give him a 20% chance.
Nick, I thought you were going to steal my answer when you were talking about being very precise, and you are the prognosticator of prognosticators and one of America's most foremost and trusted bettors. You want to make money, follow Nick Wright on Twitter and Instagram and on the Fox Bet app. So, listen, it's actually 5.3%, Nick. They're plus 1,800 on Fox Bet. I thought you were going to say 5.3 and say it was a good bet. Kemba's knee is healed. Jason Tatum's got a leadership role. We're feeling good. So the actual answer, Nick, is 5.3%.
All right, listen, I love Fox Bet, and I don't want to steal any of their action. But Wilds, if they're giving you 18-1, I'll give you 19-1. Antoine, I'll give you this. Okay. You've got them at 20%. Wow. I'll give you the same 19-1, Antoine. It's a great deal. We can work out the details after the show. For all your other bets, go to Fox Bet for Celtics championship futures. Come to me directly. I've got it.
I don't understand any of it, but let me get in on that because it just sounds like Nick's going to make out. On to another Eastern Conference contender, the Sixers. Joel Embiid said there should not even be a question that Philly's offense should go through him and that he knows he's capable of carrying the team. Nick, the pressure facing Joel Embiid in the playoffs will be blank with their 3%.
The most of his career. I mean, listen, last year was a different spot. He was coming off a year where he didn't underachieve. In fact, I think in the regular season last year, he overachieved. He was sensational. And in the postseason, they're in a Game 7 in a series where Kawhi played the best series of his life up to that point and since then. And it's a tie game with 1 second left when Kawhi takes that baseline jump shot. And while Joel was devastated with how the season ended, you felt like this is a team absolutely on the ascent. They made some questionable offseason moves. Joel didn't ostensibly get better this offseason. And now they do face the potential of being one and done in the playoffs if they do get Miami or Boston in round 1. And so, yeah, there is immense pressure on Embiid to be the best player in every series he plays in, Antoine, until they face Milwaukee. So I think it's the most pressure he's ever faced in his career, Antoine.
It's going to be very difficult for him to help this team because he already has the wrong mentality. He's talking about give me the ball. In the playoffs, it's about everything. What Embiid has the ability to be a defensive player of the year. Talk about dominating the game on both ends of the floor. So that mentality going into the playoffs bothers me already, that he needs the ball and he wants the ball all the time. You got other guys on the team, and Tobias Harris, and obviously the biggest question mark, can you tell Ben Simmons to shoot a 15-foot jump shot? If you can't get him to shoot the basketball, Embiid is not going to be effective. So I think it's good that he believes he can, but he has to have the right mentality. That means dominating on both ends of the floor. So until he gets that mentality, he will not be able to carry this team far. And they're going to have to probably do it on the road. Right now, they're a 6th seed. If they don't do well in these first 8 games, they could be doing it from the road. And we all know they're a great home team.
Yeah, so that's like 29-2 at home, and I tried to flip that around, Antoine, since it'll be a neutral court. I said they're 29-2 when they're not playing on someone else's home court, which would mean since they're not at someone else's home court, they're on a neutral court, they're still 29-2. I'd say that makes sense, Jenna. I say there's very little pressure on Embiid. I think some teams got weaker or like change. You're going to show up with a team like who's on this team anymore. And the Sixers look stronger. Ben Simmons looks great. He's doing new dunks. He's posting weightlifting videos. He looks fantastic. Look, can he hit a jump shot? Probably not. But Nick, I also subscribe to Chris Mannix's theory that we're in a new building and threes aren't going to go down anyway. So maybe Ben attacking the rim is going to be better for everybody.
It's a terrible take by Mannix. It's just a bad take by Mannix. You shouldn't subscribe
to it. I like
it.
It's a good
Let's talk some Lakers. Hey, guys, Danny Green met with reporters on Zoom yesterday, talked about Dwight Howard's return, saying everyone knows what kind of presence he is for us. Nick, Dwight Howard's impact on the Lakers' title chances was blank.
Underrated. Listen, I believe Dwight's the best center on the team if we're not going to call Anthony Davis a center. I trust him more than I trust JaVale. And here is, I think, an interesting wrinkle if you had been watching the Lakers all year long. When Dwight was at his least effective was games where there was a tight whistle, because he would come in off the bench, he would have all this extra energy, and he would get called for a couple early fouls, and it would mute his effectiveness. With a playoff whistle, I think the physicality and defense that he's able to bring in limited minutes where he can have peak intensity the whole time, he can be a real factor for them. So I think it would have been really tough for the Lakers after already losing Bradley if Dwight sat out. The fact that Dwight's going to be there and the fact that he knows what he has to prove this postseason, I believe anyone with a brain thinks he's already a Hall of Famer. But if they win a championship, he's a no-doubt Hall of Famer as a contributor. And I think the playoff whistle benefits him, Antoine. So I think it's actually a very important piece of this Lakers puzzle.
Well, Nick, I won't get into the Hall of Fame thing. We'll argue about that at a later note.
I forgot you're a Dwight Howard Hall of Fame truther. I'm sorry. I said you don't have a brain accidentally. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry, Antoine. My bad. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. But I think he has no impact on them winning the championship. I know Dwight's played great this season, and that's kudos to him. But I think for them to win, if you really think about who they're going to face, if New Orleans gets in, he probably helps them, obviously, against Zion, having a bigger body. But if New Orleans doesn't get in the playoffs, the Lakers' best lineup is being small, with LeBron James at the 4th spot and Anthony Davis at the 5. And that's where the pickup of J.R. Smith, Deion Waiters, obviously Danny Green. LeBron James is at his best when he has shooters on the floor. He can space the floor. Anthony Davis commands a double team. So their best lineup for the Lakers to me is being small, where LeBron James is leading the league in assists, where he can find different guys. So I don't think Dwight Howard has that big of an impact on this team at all.
Nick, I won't break quarantine to hang out with you. We could just jump on Zoom. But maybe like when these Lakers games, like Twan saying, to have you watch Deion Waiters and JR and playoff Rondo, I think it would just be tremendous. For Dwight, I'm going to go with Storybook. I think this is a fantastic story for Dwight. Look, the second time with the Lakers, and this stint is proving to be much, much better than the first stint. He's back in Orlando, where he was five-time first-team NBA. He's a fantastic player and a Hall of Famer. Look at this, a jump shot. And a Hall of Famer. And look, he's donating his salary to a foundation that he started to breathe again.
His salary.
I think this would just be the final sort of like cherry on top for just a Hall of Fame career and perfect for his legacy.
Hall of Fame career.
All right, let's move on to the Houston Rockets. Don't annoy Antoine. He's our guest today. Hey, the knock on the Rockets over the years has been their sometimes porous defense. Well, you know who's heard that knock? Head coach Mike D'Antoni. When asked how he's been coaching up the Rockets defense with social distancing guidelines, coach entertained the Zoom audience with this. Oh, that's how we guard anyway. Ha! Nick, Mike D'Antoni joking about the Rockets' defense is blank.
It's wildly inaccurate. Listen, Coach D'Antoni, you don't need to add to this false narrative the Rockets don't play any defense. They are elite. They are exactly average in the NBA over the course of the season, defensive rating 15th. Since Clint Capella last played, since they moved on from him, their defense has gotten better. They're 12th. And I'll add another thing, because those highlights were all, it's oddly enough, Clippers-Rockets highlights. With Robert Covington on the floor since the trade deadline, the Rockets are allowing fewer points per 100 possessions than that allegedly dominant Clippers defense. So this is just a narrative that has followed this team. It's not an accurate one. The Rockets' weakness might be depth, and it certainly is rebounding. Defense, they're fine. So D'Antoni's just, I mean, he's joking around, but he's furthering an inaccurate narrative. And due to my commitment to take integrity, I can't ever support that even in jest. Antoine.
Nick, I know you love Houston. We know that, but this is actually 100% right. He's actually telling the truth. They actually are terrible defensively, and it's going to be the reason why they're not going to go further in the playoffs, is because they don't have a commitment to the defensive end. Obviously, they decided to, in the middle of the season, to go small ball and try to see if they can outscore teams come playoff time. I understand that it has worked really well so far, but the commitment that's going to be needed by James Harden and Russell Westbrook, I don't know if those guys are going to give. We know Westbrook gives 110%. We've seen Harden in the past not be great defensively. I just don't think they get that enough. I think you asked P.J. Tucker to do so much on the defensive end to guard every team's best player, whether it's a big or a small forward. They just do not have enough to make it in the West when you think about the Clippers and the Lakers. Not enough defensively, Nick. I know you love Houston and you want them to make a deep run. I don't love
Houston.
But eventually they got to make a commitment to the defensive end. Them your boys up there, so I know you love Houston. It's okay.
Nick, you love Houston. I don't know why you don't embrace your Houstonness more. How long did you live in Houston for?
I lived in Houston for 4 years, listen, I am an unbiased, impartial observer of basketball truths. Doesn't matter where I live.
Okay.
I'm from Kansas City. I'm not a tiny Nate Archibald fan. Like, I mean, what are we talking about here? It's just the facts, Wild.
Fine. Can you put up my Katana? Can you put up my isolation? Rockets offense isolation full screen. Look, they might not guard via isolation. Nick doesn't want to hear D'Antoni even make jokes about it, but they do play offense in isolation. It's Dame and Harden. We've seen how this goes with Russ. So offensively, they also social distance Jenna.
All right, well, let's switch gears, talk some football. Is Cam Newton, guys, a lock to start week 1 for the Patriots? And if not, why? We discuss next on First Things First. MLB on Fox returns on July 25th with Fox Saturday Baseball. We could not be more excited. Baseball is back, and of course, America's home for baseball this summer, as always, will be Fox and FS1. All right, but right now we're talking football. Patriots quarterback Cam Newton, which still doesn't quite roll off the tongue. Pats insider Tom Kern is reporting the team has no concerns about Cam mastering what is considered a fairly complicated New England playbook. Kern also reporting that despite the gap in experience between Cam and Jarrett Stidham, he feels Cam understands that this is an open quarterback competition. Coach, I'll start with you. Is there any chance Cam doesn't start week 1?
Yeah, there's absolutely a chance he doesn't start week 1. There's a chance that Cam Newton's not on the roster week 1. The Patriots gave him $550,000 in guaranteed money, which is a rounding error. All of the risk is assumed by Cam Newton in this equation. If they don't like the way that he's working, if they don't like the way that he's adjusting, if he's not as healthy as they expected, they can move on from him without even thinking twice. So it's gonna be a function of him not only coming in and showing that he's healthy, but he's got to come in and show that he can play and operate in the Patriot way. And I've said this over and over again, it's not for everybody, and he's got to adjust and prove that he can fit in that style.
You know, it's also a rounding error. Jarrett Stidham's entire contract. That's got $633,000 guaranteed, because that's what you get when you're a 4th-round pick. Like this, of course he's going to be the starter. Of course he's going to be the starter in week 1. And this idea, the playbook, like he's going to have to run Tom Brady's offense. Why? Brady's gone. And of all the guys who are going to be catching passes, you have 2 rookie tight ends, You have a receiver, N'Keal Harry, who got there last year. You have a receiver, Mohamed Sanu, who got there midway through last year. Damiere Byrd, Marquise Lee, who got there this offseason. Edelman's the only old dog here who would actually be the one adjusting. And listen, Wilds, we hear all the time the Patriots are game plan specific and opponent specific. They're so smart, and McDaniels adjusts and does this. You don't think they're going to adjust the way they run their offense when they go from an immobile 42-year-old statue to 31-year-old Cam Newton? And the idea that Stidham could win a competition against Cam, come on. Come on. We all know who the week 1 starter is, Wilds, and I'm very happy for you that it's not going to be the Javelin.
Yeah, us, buddy. Well, it's us. Coach, you missed it yesterday. Nick is getting very close. Not only is he a Houston Rockets fan, but he's getting very, very close to becoming a Patriots fan. So we welcome you on board. And I still need, I don't know if you want me to send that Fanatics jersey to a P.O. box or just right to your door. So let me know. You got to text me still on that. Listen, this is a brand new moment for the franchise. It's been 471 games since the Patriots started somebody that they didn't draft. And, Coach, we went way back into the dusty old archives. And I say dusty not only because it's old, but also Dusty's the name of our researcher. And from 1980, look at these stats of Cam rushing versus all Patriots. We're back to Steve Grogan era, Coach. 984 games. 3,900 yards for the Patriots. Cam already has 4,800 TDs, 54. Those count some Doug Flutie TDs. Those count some Tom Brady TDs, and 58 for Cam. So this is a brand new moment. Then, Coach, when you look at most missed tackles, Cam Newton leads the whole world with 110. Tom Brady has 2. We put it in a very small font because we don't want to disparage Tom Brady.
Got 2.
But, Coach, so it's a little bit about Nick's question. How much of this playbook is old school Josh McDaniels, Tom Brady style, and how much of this is brand new? It's like The Hobbit. I've always been waiting to give you this book. It's all of my rushing plays I was never able to run.
I like those graphics that you have. It doesn't show how many times he's been hit, and he's got a ton of rushing yards and 0 Super Bowls when the Patriots have 6. So look, I mean, this could work too, definitely. But the thing that you have to consider here is they will adjust. So if Cam ends up being the starter, and it's a big if because there's this assumption that Cam is the same player that he was. If he was the same player, why isn't he in Carolina? If he was the same player, why isn't he in Washington? He has his former head coach and his former offensive coordinator. If that's not an indictment, I don't know what is. And the fact, what does Carolina want to lose? Look, Randy Moss is a different category. They traded for a 4th-round draft pick, and then you had Tom Brady in the locker room to help with that adjustment. Okay, just like you'll have Patrick Mahomes in the locker room in Kansas City to help as new guys come. You remember Adalius Thomas? Remember Michael Bennett? Remember Chad Johnson? Antonio Brown? You want to keep going?
Yeah. He doesn't have to be the same player to be better than Stidham. I'm going to say a couple names that I don't think have ever been mentioned on national television. And the names are Hajalt Froholt, pardon me, and Yadni Kajust. Do you guys know who those 2 people are? The answer is, of course, you don't. They are 2 offensive linemen the Patriots drafted before Stidham. With Stidham, oh my God, our quarterback of the future is available, but we got to get Yadni Kajust in the building. We're going to risk missing Stidham because we got to get Froholt in the building. Listen.
A lot of people were drafted before Brady, though.
Yeah. Good point,
okay. He's not Brady.
And Dak Prescott, and we can go on and on.
Since Brady, the Patriots have drafted 10 quarterbacks. 1 has proven to be an above-average starter, Jimmy Garoppolo. They didn't try to replace him. We'll just see. If Cam doesn't start and it's Jarrett the Javelin, we'll see. But I do think that I was saying for months Cam Newton was going to end up on the Patriots. I think he's on the Patriots. I'm now going to say for the next 2 months he's going to be the week 1 starter, and Jenna will see who the week 1 starter is.
All right, well, while Nick pats himself on the back, we're going to take a turn, talk some Patrick Mahomes. Is he already a lock for the Hall of Fame? We'll talk about it next. But first, what happens when comedian David Koechner crashes Patrick Mahomes' Zoom call?
Congratulations. David, can you hear us?
Yeah, guys, I got to say, I'm a little disappointed there wasn't one smart-ass question asked, so I guess it falls to me. You know, Mr. Mahomes, I'm sure you have a rich appreciation for NFL history and all the great quarterbacks, and I consider you one of the great quarterbacks. And you probably know this, Johnny Unitas, with the Baltimore Colts in the offseason, worked at a tile store. Now, with this new contract, do you feel like you are in a position now where you can stop working at the tile store in the offseason?
I think it's going to take a few years before I have to give up that one. That's a stable job that I could have and have a steady income. So I don't know if I'm going to give up on the towel store. I mean, plus you get free towels. Who doesn't love free towels? When you have a shower, just a nice dry towel every time.
You are a good kid. And one follow-up question, you know, the Chiefs have a lot of employees, and it's a standard thing everybody has to do. So are you going to be filling out a weekly timesheet?
I don't know about that, honestly. I'll have to get to Coach Reed and get a valid answer for you and follow up. I think Brad G can get it to you.
Welcome back. We'll get to Mahomes in the Hall of Fame in a second. But first, check out this gem of a tweet from Primetime KC. Chiefs bringing Mahomes his money. Nick, you're so good at math. How many bags would it take to pay Mahomes in cash?
Oh, 500 million? Well, the World Series of Poker, we saw him put 18 million on the table once, and that took 4 duffel bags. So now we're talking... I'd say it would take 112 duffel bags. 112 duffel bags of hundreds. That's my answer. That's my answer, Jim.
That's very impressive. Next up, our friend Frank Caliendo doing his best Andy Reid impression after finding out Mahomes is locked in for the foreseeable future. What you may not know, Andy, much like Eric Mangini, is a freak on the dance floor. Coach, where's the lie? Am I right?
No, you're absolutely right. But the thing that shocked me is this is the HIIT workout that I've been doing at home. It's very similar, and it seems like we have the same body type, so it works for both of us.
Awesome. Because the finished product is what, Andy Reid? Up next, Fansided put out this Photoshop. Wait, it is Photoshop. I don't know, whatever. This is what Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are going to look like together in 2031 after winning their 13th straight Super Bowl. Wilds, you like it?
I love it. What's not pictured here is 2031. Nick Wright still hasn't gotten a haircut. Many states, Nick, you can come on up to over here to Connecticut and get a haircut. They're in phase 2. I got a haircut. There's no excuse anymore. It's a quick 20-minute drive. I'll come pick you up and wear a mask, get your haircut. It's plenty of, we got plenty of space here for you.
Can I note something here? Andy Reid in this Photoshop ages wonderfully. What has happened to Patrick Mahomes? He'd be 34 years old in 2031. He looks horrible. That is a terrifying, if that's how he's going to age, I mean, he'd be younger, in that picture, he'd be younger than I am now. That's scary.
Stay out of the sun, buddy. Sticking with the Chiefs, our friends over at Fox Bet have Patrick Mahomes as a -300 favorite to make the Hall of Fame. He's only played 3 seasons, but 3 seasons which include 1 MVP, 1 Super Bowl win, and 1 Super Bowl MVP. Nick, has Mahomes already done enough, you think, to make the Hall of Fame? If he retired right now?
Here we go.
Yeah, so listen. The Fox Bet, will he be a Hall of Famer? It's at -300. It should be at -100,000. He obviously will be a Hall of Famer. So that's not an interesting question. The interesting question is the one Jenna asked, which is if Patrick Mahomes walked away today, would he make the Hall of Fame? And the answer to that question is yes. We have the precedent for it. We know it. He's done enough. 13 guys in the history of the league have done what he's done. Can we show them? League MVP, Super Bowl MVP. What do they all have in common? They're all in the Hall except for the ones who are not yet eligible. And that fella in the bottom left corner, Terrell Davis, is the case as to why Patrick Mahomes is already a Hall of Famer. Terrell Davis played 4 healthy years in this league and only 3 high-quality years, yet he made the Hall of Fame. Coach, Terrell Davis is not in the top 130 all-time in yards or touchdowns, yet he's in the Hall of Fame. Bottom right-hand side, Kurt Warner is in a similar bucket. He only had 3 exceptional seasons. He's not in the top 40 of the major passing categories, but he's in the Hall of Fame. You know why? Because the flame burned so brightly at their peak, they did enough. So if Patrick Mahomes, God forbid, said, you know what, I'm going to go try play baseball, I want to stop, he makes the Hall of Fame. I'm not saying he'd make it immediately, but, Coach, he's done enough to already be a Hall of Fame player.
Yeah, I disagree. I think that it's a body of work, and he's done, obviously, really impressive things early in his career. But I was under the impression that Gale Sayers was the player that made the Hall of Fame with the least amount of games played, and he played 7 years. And look, his numbers are impressive, but we also have to take into account the way that the rules have dramatically changed and skewed towards offenses over the last 5 to 10 years. If you look at the numbers of quarterbacks, offensive players, offenses, they've all bumped significantly with the rule changes. So I don't know if it's an apple to apple comparison, and to say that he's a Hall of Famer after 2 seasons, it's too early.
Nick, I thought this was like a joke question at first. I thought this question was like, hey, if you had wings, where would you fly to? But you actually convinced me here, and I wanted to come in, hot, and be like, no. Then I looked at some tweets in the Hall of Fame, and I'm like, oh, this guy, the Hall of Fame is already excited for him. We could throw up the tweets. They're talking about different statistics of Patrick Mahomes and different times his jersey's in the Hall of Fame with Derrick Henry. So I feel like he's already on the path. And just one final note, Coach, if we're talking Hall of Fame, and Nick, you got to support me on this. The Wesleyan Hall of Fame is missing one very important character who holds the sack record of 38.5 sacks. Also is 22-3-1 and won 2 championships in Melbourne while having taken some semesters overseas. So we're talking about Hall of Fames. I'm okay with Mahomes going in, but you got to put Mangini in. It's a 2-for-1 deal.
Well, I agree with you.
That's a much bigger travesty.
Go ahead, Coach. Yeah, listen, it is, by the way. I don't know much about Wesleyan, but I know enough to know Coach should be in their Hall of Fame. That is a good Hall of Fame take, Wilds. Coach's Hall of Fame take, unfortunately, was horrible. Because, listen, if my argument was that Patrick Mahomes, if he retired today, is first all-time in passer rating, yards per game, touchdown-interception ratio, then the argument of, which all those things are true, by the way, the argument of, well, the numbers are inflated would work against him. But maybe I'm wrong. I do think the whole league has been operating under the same set of rules the last 2 years, not just the Chiefs. Yet, under those set of rules, Patrick Mahomes won league MVP. Under those set of rules, Patrick Mahomes orchestrated 3 double-digit comebacks in the postseason, which, by the way, equals or betters every other quarterback in league's history career double-digit comebacks, except for Brady, who has 6. And under those rules everyone was playing in, he turned a 10-point deficit in the Super Bowl with 7 minutes left into an 11-point victory in the same Super Bowl. At some point, the Hall of Fame, Coach, it's a museum that tells the history of your sport. And much like with Gale Sayers, even though he only had 3 exceptional years, you couldn't tell the history of that era of football without Gale being there. So he had to get in, even though his numbers say there's no chance he should have been in. You could not tell the history of this time frame of the NFL without including this guy in it. And the Super Bowl MVP to go along with league MVP, to me, it cements him. He's already done enough, Coach.
Well, the one thing you're saying is that everybody's playing by the same rules. Yes, they are currently playing by the same rules, but you're comparing them to people that played with different rules, that played with harder rules, that played with cornerbacks that were able to get up and jam and jam consistently with a lot more contact in the middle of the field. The passing, it was harder to throw the ball, and quarterbacks took had a much more difficult time because they were hit a lot more often. So it's not apples to apples. Is it apples to apples to people that are playing in this moment? Yeah, but he's played 2 short years, and he's had 2 really good years, and he's played with some other players that are potentially Hall of Fame players, and maybe you tell the history of this time, or a Hall of Fame coach. Maybe that's how you tell the history of this time.
Yeah. Andy Reid goes, Kelsey goes. I'm with it. Let's put them all in.
And let's see what he does when he's not playing with those Hall of Fame players. Or
no, let's just keep them around. Remember, he took that good contract. Just keep them all around.
He makes a good point, Nick. He makes a good point. Yeah, let's switch gears slightly. You know who is happy for Mahomes? DeAndre Hopkins tweeted his congrats to Mahomes yesterday, saying, 24 reasons why Mahomes deserved that. 0 doubts he will win more Super Bowls. Hopkins flaming his former team, the Texans, who had a 24-0 lead on KC in the divisional round before the Chiefs scored 41 unanswered points. I don't know, Nick, is a little harsh, a little too harsh from D-Hop. Wasn't he on that team in that game?
Listen, I love DeAndre. I think he's a great guy. I was shocked he took this type of gut shot against his former teammates. When I saw this, the reason I wanted to make sure we fit it in the show was I want to know what Coach thinks of it. I know we have about a minute left, Coach. Your take on DeAndre Hopkins mocking a playoff loss that he was a part of.
Look, this is what happens when you move on from a guy that not everybody's going to be happy, and when they have a new platform, oftentimes their unhappiness comes out in ways that you may not appreciate as a coach or an organization. But look, I'm sure he didn't appreciate the way he was treated at the end, and this is just the price you pay.
Wilds?
Well, I support all things DeAndre Hopkins. I said it earlier this month. Anything DeAndre Hopkins does, I will support. He can tweet about me negatively. I'll be like, that's a great tweet, DeAndre Hopkins. I'm just all for him.
Oh, God. Eric Mangini, thank you so much. Always love having you here. We got to go. We're right back here tomorrow morning. Have a great day, everyone. Stay safe. See you then.